Well, good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Pretty good here, and welcome to the channel. Hey, we're sitting out here today with the gorgeous Tundra out there, and I got to thinking, there are a few things that Toyota can do to completely ruin the Tundra, right? They're coming out with this new redesigned Tundra in 2021 or 2022. But there's just a few things that if they don't get right, they're going to ruin it, at least for somebody like me. The first one is to screw with the interior dimensions. The Tacoma has this great, huge, cavernous interior, right? I mean, when you get inside the Tundra, you just feel like you've got all kinds of room in there. It feels like you're in one of those really small motorhomes. Especially in the Crew Max. I've had both. I have the double cab now, right out there, and I had the Crew Max before. And we took the Crew Max anyway on a cross-country trip. We went from Ohio to Texas and then back to Ohio. And I've also taken it from Ohio to Colorado. And I got to tell you, it was the best, by far, vehicle that I have ever taken a long distance trip in. I mean, you would think after you drive for hours and hours, like 24 of them, that after a while it would get uncomfortable, right? I never experienced that in my Tundra. It was comfortable. I didn't get out. My back was killing me, or the back of my legs were killing me, because it's set up right. They've got it right on the interior. So if Toyota wants to ruin it, change the interior dimensions, change the way that it's set up in there, and it just won't be the same. Next is power. Whether you've got the 4.6 liter like that one or the 5.7, which I had in my Crew Max, they are both fantastic motors. Matter of fact, you can't even get the 4.6 anymore. It's been discontinued, so all you get is the 5.7, which isn't a bad thing. But one sure way that Toyota can ruin the Tundra, at least for me, is to mess with the power in a negative way. To somehow reduce how quick it is off the line, how much power there is when you're cruising. When you're on the freeway, if you want to get on it to get around somebody or pass somebody or even get up to speed, on one of those long entrance ramps where nobody gets over and you have to make that decision. Am I going to floor it or am I going to hit the brakes and wait? Usually we floor it. Well, I do anyway. But you want something to be there. And if they put a new powertrain in there, this hybrid thing they're talking about, or everybody else is talking about, or this twin turbo thing, or even an electric motor, who knows? We've still got to have the power. Now, rumor is it's going to be even more powerful. We'll see. But one sure way that Toyota can ruin the Tundra is to give us less power, less responsiveness. Don't do it. Next up, the aesthetics of the truck. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I go out and I start looking at vehicles, or if I'm just driving around, I always pay attention to the way the truck looks as the first line, as the first point, I guess, when I'm looking for something new. It has to look good. When I go out in the garage in the morning or am walking out of a store going to my truck, I want it to look good. And the Tundra does. It's amazing to me that it's been around as long as it has, and it's still relevant. You can put it up against any of the trucks out there, and it still looks good. Now, you've got to think that since Toyota is re-engineering or remodeling or redesigning the Tundra, that there are going to be some styling tweaks to it. And I hope that they don't go the same direction as all the others seem to be, and they all seem to be kind of converging, in the same way. You've got the trucks with the great big giant chrome grille. We Americans, we love chrome. I don't know where they get that. I don't love chrome, but they all seem to be going that way. They all look relatively the same, except for the Tundra. It has a unique look to it, a unique vibe. And I hope that they don't redesign it in such a way, and surely they're going to try to make it more aerodynamic, for fuel economy and all that good stuff. But I hope they don't do it in such a way that it ruins the looks of the truck. That is one sure way, again, at least for me, that Toyota can ruin the Tundra. Next up is capability. A lot of people use their trucks as they should be used, right? To haul stuff, to tow stuff, all those kinds of things that are important if you're into that kind of usage for your truck. Now, certainly they won't put out a model that is less capable than what we currently have. I wouldn't think so. But to satisfy the pressures of better fuel economy and all that good stuff, you never know. You've got to maintain at least what we have right now, or you're taking a step backwards. That is another way that Toyota can ruin the Tundra. Last up is the stance on the road. Now, this one is a little more difficult to describe because there's kind of a feeling about this. And how do you describe feelings? Well, I'll compare it to the F-150s that I've had. I had two of them. And fairly recent, I think they were a 14 and a 15 or a 15 and a 16, something like that. So it wasn't like 300 years ago. And when you got in the F-150 or when you were driving around in the F-150, it felt like a truck for a few reasons. One is it always felt like you had this long, wide, giant front end to look over. And I've talked in other videos before about how difficult it is or how much more effort it takes to place a truck in your lane. You know what I mean? When you're driving along or if you're in heavy traffic and you have to pay attention because you're in a bigger vehicle as to where you're at so that you're not scraping the guy on either side of you, It doesn't feel like that in the Tundra. Its stance is more forward, I think. It feels like the Tundra has a shorter hood. Like you're more looking over the hood as opposed to across the hood. So again, kind of going back to the aesthetics of the truck, if Toyota somehow changes the way that you feel inside the truck, it's going to ruin it. It's going to ruin it for me. That was one of the big things that I noticed right off that I really liked about the Tundra. It is a giant truck. I mean, look at it. You guys can see it in the glare out there. It is a giant truck. I mean, full-size trucks today are huge, but it doesn't feel that way. And I hope that Toyota doesn't ruin that we still have that same feel that we get right now in the truck, because I think it's pretty unique. I also had a Ram Rebel, and it also felt big, in the front. When you're looking over the hood, or across the hood rather, it always felt big to me, and it always felt like you just had to be more aware. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay attention and be aware when you're driving a big truck. Obviously you should. It's not like driving a Honda Civic or a Toyota Prius, right? It is big, but they're easier to drive the way that they're set up right now, the Tundra that is, as compared to these other models, at least the ones that I've had. And I think it's important that Toyota maintains that, because one of the biggest things that will ruin it for me is if I get in this new truck and it feels different. It feels huge. I don't want it to feel that way. One last thing that I'll mention, I kind of noticed this today when I was driving around, and I was thinking back to when I had the F-150s, and that is, they always felt like trucks, And I'm not to say that when you're driving a truck, you don't want it to feel like a truck, but they felt rattly. They felt noisy. Everything creaked and made sounds inside. The bed articulated all the time from the cab. When you go over bumps, it would also, it felt like it would bounce. If you went over a railroad track, for example, and you hit the front, and then you go over the rear, it would almost feel like it bounced while you were doing that. The Tundra doesn't feel that way. It kind of takes the whole thing in one fell swoop. Stuff like that is important. It's what differentiates the Tundra from the other trucks that are out there, in my opinion. They just feel better. Oh, we have the mailman back there. Cool. Anyway, I just wanted to get on here, talk about a few things that, in my opinion, will ruin the Tundra if Toyota doesn't pay attention to them. As usual, appreciate you guys watching. Leave a comment down below. Have you noticed these things? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the web. Have a great day. Bye.